This is day 4 out of 4 of Africa Oil Week, and it's been a long and intense week. I've learned so much about oil and gas, and I think that fundamentally, as Africa, we are rich in resources. This is something we hear all the time. When you hear international speakers, the international companies, the investors admitting this in a room full of 2,000 delegates who primarily focus on oil and gas and energy, look, it's encouraging. So if you are not at the table for these kinds of conversations, then you definitely need to get serious as an African country. Now, there is an African showcase, like countries are given the opportunity during this conference to exhibit individually and literally sell the country. Tell investors what it is that we can do for them. Tell investors what it is that we can bring to the table and how they can invest in our countries, whether it's for exploration, whether it is into renewable energies, whether it is actually like this transition that we keep talking about. We keep talking about access, we keep talking about transition. So I found that this is the brilliant platform to be able to engage with the actual decision makers. It's not like low level. These are the people that sign. Like everything begins and ends with the people that are here. It's the CEOs, it's the presidents, the vice presidents, and it's the ministers. And they're the ones who literally decide, on most of these mega deals. So you find that they're now little compartments and silos. We've moved from the main auditorium now. It's deal making time. So you find people in little corners, people in private rooms, and people in more close-knit segments now finalizing the deals that they can make for each other. So it's exciting. And Zimbabwe, come to the table. So we're here on the sidelines of the Africa Oil Week, and I have found our minister in Zimbabwe, Honourable Minister of Energy and Power Development, Honourable Zhemu. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm good. It's nice to see you here.
Thank you.
Yeah, tell me your key takeaways. How have you found it?
Yes, from the discussions that were going on, we are finding ourselves as surely part of the African sentiments, where the discussion around transitioning from our traditional means of energy generation have been explored to some length, and we are finding ourselves sharing the same views with most of the African countries, where we think our priority for now must not be on transition, but on provision of energy to our people.
The basics.
Yes, because the access levels generally in Africa are still below 50%. This is what we are finding.
I believe 75% even of Africa doesn't have electricity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you find even from our own country in Zimbabwe, our level of access to electricity is around 45%, of which 87% is in urban areas and 13% is in rural areas. So we think this is supposed to be our focus, to ensure that we are providing electricity adequately to our people, energy resources to our people. For instance, what we are currently doing in Zimbabwe is to expand our power station, especially the one which is supposed to be the best loading station.
Yes, so it's going down every other day.
Yes, it's going down. I heard you speaking about it.
Yes, I have.
Yes, on the podium to say there is load shedding.
But it's not just us, yeah. It's Zambia, it's South Africa. Our region right now is in trouble.
Certainly.
Yeah.
So it means it's not only ourselves that are in trouble, but the whole region is actually in trouble, and that must be our concern and our focus.
It is a concern, because when we are down as Zimbabwe, then you have ZESCO down next door, you have ESCOM down next door. Yeah. So the excess that we get from them, together with what we're supposed to provide for ourselves, becomes a nightmare. Now tell me, on the global conversation, you've heard a lot of the panels, and there's a lot of discussion about migration to gas, and then obviously the green energy conversation, right? It's the green finance and where we're going now. Tell me, where does Zimbabwe offer anything on the table? What can we put on the table in this global conversation? We don't necessarily have oil reserves, but I know that we have some elements that we've recently discovered. Let's talk about what Zim is putting on the table at a global scale. Yes,
we are still at the exploration stage, but there are indications that we might be finding something in terms of oil, in terms of gas, which we think if we happen to find those deposits, then that is going to accelerate our level of electricity generation. But for now, what we think, going the green energy route, we need to accelerates the uptake of solar energy, which we have in abundance in our country.
We've been encouraging people to get off the grid for a long time, but it's taking a while.
Yeah.
It's a cost element, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a cost element.
Yeah, sure. You see, we are finding it very difficult to have serious investors, especially in the solar energy space. Most of them, yes, they are indicating intention to come and invest in Zimbabwe. Like as we speak right now, we have more than 6,000 megawatts of licensed investments in solar energy, which are not taken off.
Why?
Yeah, some of the reasons, they needed some kind of guarantees from the government,
Yes.
which we are now saying, instead of coming to do some investments which are largely targeted at supplying to the entity, the power utility which is owned by the government, we are also saying one can come do an investment in solar energy and you find your own private customer to supply your power, which does not involve the government directly. And that
So government is
away,
now allowing that.
yeah, it's actually allowed with a policy provision that speaks to that.
Did you tell them here that? Did you get the opportunity to make that known? That
From
Zimbabwe
those
is
that
open.
from those that we
Yeah.
have been interacting with,
Yeah.
we made it very clear, including Mr. Long, whom we had a discussion
Yes.
with. We
Alistair.
told him, yeah, Mr.
Yes.
Long,
Yeah.
yes, from the United Kingdom. We
Yes.
told him certainly that Zimbabwe now has a policy provision that allows.
Have we
for-
signed any deals here, Minister?
Not necessarily, but our engagements, yeah, looks very fruitful, and we think we will continue to engage further. But all we
Because
were
they're
making
all in the
very
room.
clear-
All those ones who do exploration, who do investment, they're all here. So you can't leave, sir, without a briefcase full of deals.
We discussed it
MOUs.
this morning with Invictus Energy.
Yeah.
Yes, we were
Good.
discussing
Good.
on their exploration which they are doing in Zimbabwe, in Zarabani, and apparently that's my constituents where I'm coming from.
Isn't that convenient?
Yes,
What a
so-
coincidence. So I'm here with Katerina. She is based here in Dubai, but originally from Ukraine. And she is one of the very few women in the room at this Africa Oil Week here in Dubai. And being based here, Katerina, tell me, how do you feel having about 45 African countries represented here, literally coming to take over the city?
Well, firstly, thank you for having me here. Thanks for the invitation. And I really think that UAE generally is a big hub for shipping and oil and gas industry.
Right.
I do believe that Africa has a tremendous potential. Nevertheless, there are a few gaps that have to be covered in terms of infrastructure and making life of people better by covering certain basic needs.
Yes.
Nevertheless, generally the industry and the hub, as well as us being from the private sector, are interested in investment into the region,
Yes.
collaboration, and I do see a pretty much of a bright future of the
Good.
African continent in
Good.
terms of coordination
Yeah.
between the, let's say, big oil majors, private sector, and also local government.
So cooperation has been talked about a lot, and even sustainability. So in terms of like this sector, we have Southern Africa, right? In a lot of ways that is not necessarily presenting much. They're not saying a lot. I don't know how you're seeing that, because I find that being from Southern Africa myself, we are not giving enough to this conversation. It's pretty much North Africa and then dominantly West Africa, particularly Nigeria. So have you had a chance to speak to any of the Southern African countries?
We actually work a lot with Southern African countries in terms of the cargo deliveries there. So
Okay.
from the private sector, I have to say that the cooperation is there.
Good.
Though in terms of exposure, it's not that big, and probably that's something that we have to work on to develop a society more. As for West Africa, precisely Nigeria has also pretty much for potential, and we work with Nigeria.
Yes.
We do lots of service in the Gulf of Guinea as well.
Good.
So I'm glad that those countries are exposed,
Yeah.
and it brings lots of attention. One important point,
Yes.
UAE also, it was about 5-6 years ago when took over Somalia region in terms of development of the ports infrastructure.
Yes,
and
I
we
did
can
hear
see
that.
nowadays how safe and secure it
It's
is to
developed
go
so much, yeah.
to Somalia and do the trade.
Yes.
So
That's good. So come and develop the other ports as well. Because the
That's a good
lady from
idea.
Somalia did speak yesterday on the
Yeah.
panel. And she did emphasize that she has gotten a resounding amount of support from the energy sector in terms of the trade. So I think it's a good thing. If you look at all the coasts, I mean, it doesn't affect us as Zimbabwe because we're a landlocked country. But I know that there are many other ports that could benefit from that. Mozambique or South Africa, there's many areas. Yeah.
One thing to conclude, I just wanted to point out that mutual cooperation in terms of taking from the pattern the security issues of Somalia, because Somalia was well known for the piracy matters. We have been handling it, and on the government level and from the private sector, having lots of PMSCs providing on-guard services for the region, brings a lot of potential to the blue economy that at the same time brings the region on a more stable level.
Right.
So I think Somalia is one of the good examples.
It's like a case study. Yes.
It is, even though there are lots to be done yet in the region.
Correct.
But I think we are on the right path to making this world better, safer, and making the blue economy way more productive.
I like that. Thank you, Katrina.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Pleasure is
Take
all
care.
mine.
All right. Thank you very much. I was talking about how Africans always have so much in common. We were just before talking to me about like the relationship between Zimbabwe and Congo. Tell me about that.
Well, I think we have a long history of good relationships with two countries.
Yes.
So, like I mentioned before, I was living in Kinshasa, and two governments, the government of the U.S. government, have good relationships, which took the head of states.
Yes.
And in the Congo, we had a war back in 1998, and then rebels coming from the east side of the country, facing in the center, and then ready to overtake the capital city. And our head of state, Mr. Kabila, late Mr. Kabila, reached out to Zimbabwe. So he sent troops that secured the capital. So
we have a long history of diplomatic ties.
Yeah. So thanks to Zimbabwean troops, that the capital Kinshasa was saved.
I love that. I love that. We're discussing Africa all week, but these conversations don't fail to come up because we are African and we're united by that. So thank you very much. Shay from Nigeria. You guys are dominating this conference. How does it feel to be like the shining beacon of Africa?
I don't think with
you don't? Who's dominating? Tell me.
I don't know, but it feels very, very African.
Okay.
Actually, I think there's people.
Oh, you're humble, Nigeria.
No. I'm being factual, actually.
Yeah.
You know, but it's different. I feel like we're just one of many players. You know, it feels very, very democratic here.
Yeah.
We usually dominate, but this one
is balanced.
Yeah,
that's
very
good.
balanced.
I think maybe it's also the selection of panelists being quite diverse. And I know when I say Nigeria's leading, it really has been apparent over many of the conversations that when it comes to exploration, a lot has already been done.
Sure.
When it comes to the market, when it comes to like the reserves and everything. Now, Ghana was talking about nuclear power yesterday, the deputy minister. And we want to know from you as Nigeria, do you sympathize and empathize with the rest of Africa who are still far away from imagining nuclear power, who are still trying to use coal and firewood and just basically even to provide electricity to its people? Or do you consider yourselves like way past that and you know what, everyone must just make a plan for themselves?
No, not at all. No, I'm full of sympathy.
Good.
You know, I think someone put it very aptly at the beginning that for Africa is about access, not transition. So we have a lot of developmental issues to deal with. Access to electricity. You know, there's some people doing distributed stuff in remote areas, trying to get people access to electricity. So I think that's the main thing, you know, for us. Unfortunately, there's a lot of fossil fuels, but it's really about making the best out of that, being responsible to the environment. But I think we have to answer questions around access and availability before we start moving up the sort of the chain of more substituted energy sources.
Sure. Yeah. So in your business, with your company here, you deal with crude oil, right?
And all petroleum products. We deal with crude, we deal with AGO, we deal with petrol, PMS, we deal with LPG, and we're trying to do more work with LNG.
Good. So have you met people here whom you never would have met before, and has it been productive? Do you find that this is a kind of environment in which you can actually make progress, or is it more just kind of meet and greet?
So for me, I've been coming in and out of this conference for the last 10 years. So I'm quite familiar with the terrain. I think it really consolidates. It's important that we're here, and some of our clients are here. You know, gives them more confidence in our business, not just in our service delivery. Because we hear from the public conversation that we're hand in hand with them in moving, in moving their causes, which of course ties into our services. So no, it's been very good. To be honest, I think we've some of our core clients from Nigeria here, we've had a lot of conversations about opportunities in West Africa. And it's been good.
Fantastic. Well, all the best, Shay.
Thank you.
Hope the
much.
rest of it is good. And we will definitely be in touch. I'm sure next year will be better. That's what everybody always aims for, right? Bigger and better.
Right.
So yeah.
No, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank
Thank you very much.
Okay. The final lunch right here at the Africa Oil Week, and I'm standing here representing Ghana and Uganda. I have Patrice, Henry, and Daniel. Right? So gentlemen, tell us about your takeaways from the conference. I mean, we have trends that we've heard about. What stands out for you?
For me, this was the first time attending the Africa Oil Week. And one of my main objectives was actually networking and trying to build on relationships that I can follow very well. And I'm here presenting Honourable Oil. Yes.
Okay.
We are 100% indigenous.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So you found this beneficial, obviously. So will you be in Cape Town next year?
Yes.
Fantastic. Tell us, Henry, from Uganda, tell us what you have benefited, what the country is going to benefit from.
Well, Uganda is a part of Africa, and we have moved from exploration now into production. It's been a long time, and so I think this conference is really, really timely for us. I'm from the private sector, environment, social and corporate governance, and of course interacting. I think the platform has been very beneficial because at AOW you get to bringing the IOCs, the government, and then as a private sector, and small and medium enterprises. And so for me, it's been really a good exposure, a good linkage, and of course, following up your question, will I be kept up?
Yes, I love to see it. I love to see it. Good, Daniel. Obviously, you're representing the same company as Patrice, but I mean, I was curious about the demographics, and I asked this in the room the other day, and I said, in terms of age, in terms of gender, I feel like you look like we're from the same generation, and we're surrounded by.
No, we are
Patrice is on the spot.
I'm on my own here.
You're on your own.
Yes.
Tell me about that. I mean, when it comes to the energy sector, how do you feel as a young man? I mean, do you have a voice? Are you literally in a decision-making level yet, or is it quite a big struggle to get to the top?
Right. Thank you for the question. Yes, you raise a fair point. In our industry, they're mostly business owners of a certain age. But I think that's increasingly changing. For Harlequin, for instance, the owners of the company are well in their late 20s to early 30s. And you see more of those in other oil and gas service providers in the country as well. So without a doubt, that's changing. Younger businessmen are getting into the industry. Women as well are owning oil and gas service companies. And I think that in the next 10 to 15 years, the demographics would have totally changed.
Right.
Yeah,
no, that's good. Well, thank you very much for your time.